you have come from far and wide. Welcome to Fans of Film Music 16. And a big thank you to Evergreen Studios. This is the first time I've been here. Working with Vicky, she used to work at the bridge, has been wonderful. A few thank yous, Edward Miller, Del Turner, Henry Stanley, Nancy Hogan, Darnell Cassis, Gary Hughes, Marshall Harvey, Alan Noel, the family of Bill Bailey. In all your bags, you have 2 autographed soundtracks from his collection. Thank you, Bill. He passed away a few years ago. He's a big fan of us. Brad Fidel, Daniel Schweiger, Evergreen Studios, Terry Potts Chattaway, Lullaby Records, Charter Records, Anita Music, the Walt Disney Company, Brian Clevenger, all my family and friends back home. Daniel's going to be our hosting. He's going to take it away. When we are done, we're going to have an autograph signing. We'll sign it. We'll line up right here. So take it away, Daniel.
I am Daniel Schweiger. I'm the host of Film Music Live and the soundtrack editor of OnTheScore.com. And a big thanks to Fans of Film Music founders Peter and Hackman for having me back to host the incredible 16th assemblage of Hollywood's notable composers. Now, for the first time at Evergreen Studios, where any number of great soundtracks have been recorded. And now let me introduce our guest. Jay Chattaway was probably the only person who kept his head and his hair on when making his debut with William Lustig's 1984 classic Maniac. Before joining the director on the side of right with Vigilante, Jay helped create a musically patriotic persona for Chuck Norris in the Missing in Action movies 1 and 3 before helping him save America with Invasion USA. Making him to television with Falcon Crest and Jacques Cousteau, Chattaway became one of the main composers for Star Trek's Next Generation universe, continuing his mission with scores for Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. Now you can read Jay's Captain's Log in his new book, Journey to the Inner Light. Let's welcome a composer as heroically invincible as Jean-Luc Picard and Colonel James Braddock, Jay Chattaway. From Pythonites to a fish called Wanda, 4 heroes on the half shell, and tuning his UHF dial to an accordion player named Weird Al Yankovic, Jonathan Prez knows all about creating the sound of musical comedy for icons on both sides of the Turtle Pond. Invigorating the sound of British pop as a member of Modern Romance, Dupree has taken Spamalot and Life of Brian to the musical stage, while raiding offices alongside the Crimson Permanent Insurance, putting the vampirist mark on Jim Carrey with Once Bitten, spinning the wheel of the fish for Weird Al, and scoring the first 3 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. Let's welcome a composer who knows how to get to Spatula City with a pizza in hand, Johnny Bray. With his father, William R., who gave birth to the Crater Lake Monster, and brother Bill, who's won Oscars for exploring the worlds of Avatar and Alice in Wonderland, it's no wonder that William T. Stromberg found his own artistic adventures in music. Under the mentorship of John Morgan, William has distinguished himself as the composer with a fixation on the atomic bomb's destruction, Eternity and Beyond, Atomic Journeys, and Nukes in Space, while also monster busting for Starship Troopers 2, The Lost Skeleton Returns, and Tales of Frankenstein. But William T.'s talent for giving new life to an orchestra is no more impressive than with his new performances of the likes of The Chairman and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, alongside his wife Anna, in between their real-life adventures chasing tornadoes. Let's welcome a composer who should definitely score the next Twister, William T. Stromberg. Gaining her musical voice as a mezzo-soprano at Cornell University on her way to instrumentally singing as one of Hollywood's most energetically upcoming composers, Dara Taylor's work alongside composer Christopher Leonard's on Agent Carter, Sausage Party, and the cult classic Barman Star has yielded an impressive solo career that's seen her work with director George Clooney on The Tender Bar and Tyler Perry's Straw, speak for the hilariously foul-mouthed Dogs and Strays, and now put on Marvel Universe's armor with a uniquely superpowered score for Disney Plus's Ironheart. Let's welcome a composer with a residency at the Vista Del Mar. A guitarist hailing from Louisiana who first created the band Aphrodite before working as a go-to session man for such artists as Stevie Wonder and Donna Summer, W.G. Snuffy Walden brought his acoustical rock pop sound to television with an Emmy nomination for 30-something. Snuffy hasn't stopped going with dozens of classic shows, winning the Emmy for the main title of The West Wing while getting recognized for such series as I'll Fly Away, Felicity, My So-Called Life, Huff, and most recently SEAL Team, all while getting a miniseries scoring nomination for his novel acoustical approach to the first classic adaptation of The Stand. His many wonder years have also been the subject of the documentary Up to Snuff. Let's give a salute to a truly presidential composer who put together a band on a mission from God, W.G. So I'm going to start by asking two questions apiece for our composers, and I'm going to hand it over to you dudes. So Jay is one of the original voices of the next generation of Star Trek. What was it like finding that new sound for the next generation universe?
Am I on? Yes. It was a challenge basically because I was asked to do my first episode for Star Trek without seeing any other musical design, or my only comments from the producers were, just do what you think an epic space adventure should sound like. And of course I was a huge John Williams fan, so I assumed that all the characters would have to have special themes, as John would do in Star Wars, etc., and have it be completely large orchestral design. And so I was given my first show as 65 pieces to have in the orchestra, and I wrote a thematic score for every character. And upon my first rehearsal, the first recording session, I did a 6-minute action piece, and the producers, I came into the booth, and the producer said, no, that's okay, but now do something different. So here we are with 65 musicians, and a 6-minute thing, and I had to think on my feet really fast. And anyway, we ended up taking out almost all the themes, so it became sort of a linear approach to music, and that was sort of taking all the thirds out of all the chords, which then became sort of a Klingon open fifth kind of a thing, and that's sort of how that sort of developed. And it must have worked because I stayed for 16 years doing Star Trek.
Okay, well, folks, you heard it here first. With permission of Entrada Records, I'm making a world announcement. Entrada will be putting out John Dupre's incredible score for the CD of UHF. And I did the liner notes, and it's almost as good as winning a bass on Will Fish. So John, I gotta ask you, what was it like scoring UHF? I mean, it's a tremendous, among the many cult movies you scored, I don't know, arguably it might be the biggest.
Kind of the best week of my life, I suppose. I'd come over after Fish Called Wanda with my family and stupidly rented a house in Santa Monica, which I couldn't afford. So basically we ran out of money after about 9 months and I had to go back. I've incidentally lost my house 5 times, either to the bank or to the landlord in the course of my career. It's a rocky road. So anyone who does it is completely mad. You know, the feast or famine thing is very, very true. So I've been here about 6 months. I did get a gig doing a TV show for ABC, but that didn't really kind of cover things. So then I got this call from the agent, about the only call I've ever had from an agent that were agents never do anything for you. So they said, we got this movie, the budget is $15,000, including you. And so of course I spent all of it on the studio, which happened to be Clear Lake Audio, which is just around the corner, and it's still going. I'm thrilled to be in this studio, by the way, just to see a working, vibrant recording studio. I'm a kind of studio rat, and it's my kind of church, this kind of place. So I just love being in the studio, where the magic happens. And so we went there and we negotiated a lockout rate for a week. Now, lockout rates are designed for kind of rock and roll bands because they know that they'll come in on the first day, and by about 6 o'clock in the evening they'll have a sound together, you know, and then as time goes on, it's known as slippage, I think. So they come in later and later. So they're coming in about 4 a.m. by the end of the lockout. I'm not like that. I had 10 to 10, that's good 12 hours, you know, with people coming in on a regular basis. I nearly killed the engineer because, of course, they never get a rest. You know, and I had very few resources. I had a little Mac SE 30, my first computer. I had a rack mount, emulator rack mount, and a Korg M4 keyboard. And they were great. They were the first ones that were multi-sound. I think you could get 8 sounds going at once, and they had a little sequencer in them. So I sequenced all the strings. I'm lucky to be a French horn player, trumpet player. Oh, nice. You want to do the duets? I've always wanted a French hunting horn, by the way, with no valves. Did you have one of those? I will get one, and we'll do those little things together. French horn is a good place to learn the orchestra. You sit at the back counting bars, you see, so you learn all the and so I could do trumpet and horn and keyboards. And I had Weird Al Yankovic's band, who are totally amazing. I saw them at the Forum about a month ago. Still the original band. Amazing, you know, John Bermuda Schwartz drummer, you know, they're all of them. And so I had these 4 amazing musicians, and Al came in and did some a cappella with us. But all the rest was like sort of running down the strings as a sequence, you know, and then me tracking up brass. Tell me if I'm going on too long. And I shut up and let these other wonderful people talk. But I'll keep going until you tell me to shut up. You know, like the Oscars, you could just... On the Life of Brian, my first gig with the Pythons, you know, they wanted to have a spoof of James Bond theme for the opening of Life of Brian. So I went in, I did 12 trumpets, 6 French horns, maybe 8, all the keyboards, and tracked up this crazy thing that became the Brian song at the beginning. And by the way, no one else could replace it. We hired musicians to try and do it better, but they couldn't do it. So that's what ended up on the film, was the demo, with strings added. Because I was told to, when playing the trumpet, to throw myself at the tape. Which meant, you know, 150% commitment to every note you hit. And so about a month after that session, I burst my lung playing at my nephew's wedding in the Highlands of Scotland. And, because, you know, I'm extreme, I sort of just go through. So anyway, I ended up in intensive care in the hospital because of this commitment. And at that moment, I decided to quit my very safe job at London University as a music lecturer and do film music, you know, because that was it. I said, life is short, we might go next week, so do it now.
Well, so I was looking at the bright side of life.
So I knew how to track up a big brass section, you know, and so I did it on all. I had the wonderful spooks. I had Rambo to work with on UHM. You know, I had the Temple of Doom at the beginning. So I'm a big fan of John Williams too. You know, a wonderful guy. I was lucky to meet him once, but that was another story. And,
So did I, but I can't tell.
you can't tell. Okay, all right, I'll stop.
Yeah. Now,
So that's it. So in a week, I had $15,000. I spent it all on the studio. Luckily, the musicians were free and I was free. So 35 years later, we got a soundtrack album deal.
So, on the subject of older soundtracks, William, I mean, you and Anna have just done so many amazing, you know, and we have, Adam just told me, Frankenstein the Chairman coming out from Entrada. What is the key to doing one of these amazing reconstructions, making something sound old but still new?
Well, you've got to love it. I mean, and my wife Anna and I, we absolutely love this stuff. And my friend John Morgan, who just passed away in January, we started in 1994 re-recording all these great scores. Korngold, Max Steiner, Victor Young. And we kind of wanted to pay back. It's kind of a tribute to these composers who taught us so much. We wanted to re-record their classic scores, which were just being shelved in the studios, you know? So we really wanted to put them out there and kind of pay tribute to the classic film composers of the past, you know?
Great stuff. I mean, again, just, you know, the level of performance you get from Scotland, from these.
Well, the Royal Scottish National Orchestra is probably one of the best orchestras I've ever worked with. We started recording in Moscow, Russia, back in 1994. We started with Son of Frankenstein and House of Frankenstein. And literally, it was a train wreck every time I gave a downbeat. I've actually heard junior high bands sound better on the first run through. But then by the third take, it would sound amazing. It would sound just like the film. And I can't tell you how much great film music I've conducted that's been ruined by the poor performance. I'm like, oh man, they ruined my favorite piece, you know? Anyway, so we try not to do that, obviously. So we work on it. But yeah, the Royal Scottish National Orchestra has been the greatest thing that I've discovered in the last 10 years or so, yeah.
Dara, I love your scoring for Ironheart, series on Disney Plus, and you've got really cool new covers thanks to them. What's the challenge of scoring kind of an anti-superhero who essentially is part of a gang of criminals? She's not Iron Man, but how did you want to get her neighborhood across, the suit, all these things?
Yeah, she's not Iron Man. I mean, she's dealing with her own set of insecurities and grief and things. But I mean, you know, Iron Man must be dealing with a bunch of shit too. But yeah, I mean, I think it was important to kind of have her own sonic thumbprint, especially since she was introduced in Wakanda Forever. But yeah, I mean, to me, what I really wanted to get across was kind of her intelligence and the fact that both her intelligence and her anxiety, like she has panic attacks in this show. So like the fact that her mind never stops moving, for better or for worse, usually for worse for her, is kind of shown in the music. So I have a lot of, you know, large orchestra which we recorded in Australia, and at the same time a lot of synths. My engineer was not quite happy with how many times the orchestra and the synths were playing like two, you know, sample in sync there, because he had to do a lot of gridding. Usually there's a little more give and take between, you know, the pre-records and the orchestra, but there was no give and take. So it's like they need to be exactly on every single time, and that also took a few tries. And it was one of those things where like, are they together? Or are they perfect? No. Are they off at the same time? Yes. And then they can fix that, you know. There's a lot of music to get through. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like where she is, you know, the show takes place in Chicago. So my kind of homage to Chicago was bucket drumming, because as you go down the street, you will hear bucket drums in the streets of Chicago. That and a lot of wind. And the wind was harder to track, but bucket drums. Yeah, so I got a group of 5 drummers, and I recorded them, and it was one of the most fun sessions I've ever had. Just because you mock things up, and you take these little samples and you splice them together and hope for the best, but like just to have that the live kind of riffing and feeding off of each other was a lot of fun.
I hope we get to score the Mephisto series because I want that. Snuffy, I mean, you've done so many incredible, iconic television shows, but I think for me, probably the most important one is The West Wing. Well, tell me about the experience of scoring that show and its resonance today.
That show was originally supposed to be an acoustic guitar show, believe it or not. And Aaron, I've just done a series with Aaron and Tommy, and we've done a thing called Sports Night, and that was all electric guitar. And so they came to me and they said, can you score this? I mean, could you do it? And I said, acoustic guitar, sure. And about a month and a half before we went to air, they said, we've been putting John Williams up against all this film. Sounds great. Can you just do that? Well, now, I don't read music, and I don't write music out. And so I did a quick study on Aaron Copland, and basically those scores to me are very melodic, and there's a certain structure to them. But the bottom line is gospel music to me. I mean, when you get down to the themes and some of the simple stuff, so that's what I did. And the actual main title came out of the 3rd episode. Because I only had the money to score 3 episodes at a time. And we did that for two sets of 3, and then, I couldn't get the film till a couple of days before, so I did everything on mini. But that's the way that one worked out.
Now, Jay, you have a new biography written Turning the Light. What's the challenge of chronicling your life?
Well, we'd have to ask my wife that, who's sitting back here, Terry Potts. Terry was a producer on Deep Space Nine, and she was about to write something, and she was hearing all these people calling for interviews, etc. And she said, the next time I have somebody do that, I'm going to start writing this stuff down. And she decided that maybe I would be a good character for her first writing approach. And it was kind of a drag because she'd come to bed with a tape recorder every night. Took the edge off of romance. And she did an astounding job of chronicling my life and my musical career and my sailing career. And I'm very happy that it's not something a sales pitch here, but there are some books available. And stand up, everybody see you. My career's been quite interesting because I didn't start in television. I started as a jazz person in New York City, writing jazz charts and producing and doing some film. And I'm not going to do the whole history, so don't start. Okay, yeah. But she chronically wrote great stuff about the history. And when I went from jazz, I went into the military, worked for the Navy band for 7 years, and met people there that were on the road with like Maynard and people like that. And I came to Columbia Records and produced my first album, and it was a gold record, and I got 2 Grammy nominations. So I'm pretty lucky. That album was Maynard doing the theme from Rocky. And so Bill Conti and I became very good friends. Of course, he's collecting massive royalties from that sale. And from there, I went to, started doing independent films in New York. Bill Lustig was my first film original, but my really first film, which you didn't mention, was a wonderful film called Firepower in London with Sophia Loren and James Coburn. Now, you can imagine as rookie composer or orchestrator, I was working with Gato Barbieri, who did Last Tango in Paris, and he asked me if I would help. Well, I didn't know that Gato didn't really know how to synchronize film and music. I didn't either, but I read the book. And so my first approach was I'm in London, Wembley Studios, doing a film with Sophia Loren on the big screen and conducting the orchestra. And then cut to many years later, we were back there doing Star Trek: The Ultimate Voyage, which is history of all the Star Trek movies, television, etc., with symphony orchestra. And the premiere at Royal Albert Hall in London included my music from The Inner Light, and I got to conduct the London Philharmonic. And two of the guys in the orchestra were there when I did my first film. So, and that's the title of our book. It's called Journey to the Inner Light, and it's quite informative, and I hope some of you read it. Thank you.
John, from A Fish Called Wanda to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 to One Spittin', what do you think is the biggest difference between scoring comedies for England or in America, between the two countries?
Well, if I knew that, I could write another book myself. There was a rule in Python: if it makes us laugh, it's in. And I think that's my rule, really. I just look at it, and if it makes me laugh. So I don't really think about that. I think I would like to think that we live in one world, and that there is a basic sense of humour across the whole world. I don't like sort of carving up. I did hear a few small differences. I mean, I saw one scene, and the director said, "Cut, cut! He's not wearing a comedy shirt." So they changed the shirt, to a Hawaiian one. It's a nice little sidebar, by the way. And I want to know what you think about the East Wing as well, before we finish. But anyway, apparently the new head of the Kennedy Center, who I won't name, decided that Weird Al Yankovic's shirt in UHF should be banned from the Smithsonian exhibition. And so we're hoping to do a live concert next year, and we want we're having this shirt printed, and we want the whole audience, 5,000 of these shirts, that the head of the Kennedy Center has just banned. So,
nice.
What was the question? The other thing when I did a TV show here, and they said you have to build up to the commercial. In England, we tail out. You tail in. And they said you've got to build up. You want a bumper. I'd never heard of what a bumper is. So you've got to, when you come to the end of a cue on the TV thing, you've got to down. Okay, folks, I want to take you back to a horrible commercial that comes on next. The other thing is that I also learned that in England we cut 2 frames into the cut. So if, let's say you want to hit something, we'll put it 2 frames into the cut. And there is a scientific reason for that. It's apparently the reaction time of the human brain and eye is actually 2 frames after the event. And so if you put it on the cut, then it pops. It actually makes it jump. Interesting, and you can use that. I often use it at a particular look. A character will look up, and at a certain point, they're sort of clocking something, and I will put something on that just to make that look pop. So the frame will jump. And here, you always put it on the jump. You don't have 2 frames in. So it's just cut, especially now on digital, it's just cut on the frame. And I still like to go 2 frames in because it's sort of more effective. But that's the kind of English reserve, I suppose. We tend to kind of hang back a bit, because we're so oppressed, life is shit and then you die, you know, so that's a kind of national motto.
William, you have probably the most hair-raising and exhilarating side thing you got. I know a composer has. You and Anna are storm chasers. How does storm chasing contribute to your creativity as a composer?
Well, it's fun to listen to Mysterious Island by Bernard Herrmann while we're out there chasing. Anyway, no, we just love weather. It became a passion with us when we first met. Our first date was watching the Weather Channel with a big storm coming in off the Pacific. And we said, why don't we just make spaghetti and watch the storm come in? And that was our first date. And so we just love it. We loved it. We researched it. We love tornadoes. And most of all, we love the middle of the country. We absolutely love running through cornfields, driving through all these beautiful places out, sunflower fields and all this. It's just so beautiful, and the people are so friendly in the middle of the country. And luckily, Tornado Alley goes from Texas up to North Dakota. So we can go out there every year in the spring, this is when the storms happen, and we can listen to our beautiful music in the car, we drive out and chase storms, and we've gotten really, really good at it. We know how to sit right just a mile or a half a mile away from a tornado when it's coming down. And we've seen over 100 tornadoes. Wow. And so we just love it so much. It's just passion, And then I have another life, doing film music. Anyway, I wanted to say, one of my very first recordings was done in this studio in 1990. And I worked for Golan and Globus. Do you know those guys? Yeah. I did a film called Killing Streets. Yeah. And we recorded it right here. And I had a decent little orchestra with a lot of keyboards and synth sounds and things like that. And it was kind of modern at that time, using all the samples, and synth sounds, not samples. Because when I used real percussion, I actually had Emo Richards, who was a famous percussionist. I had all of his percussion set up back here, like with a gigantic log drum that went up to the ceiling. And I used all of that in my score and had all these guys banging on tablas and all kinds of, but with a full orchestral accompaniment out here. 4 horns, woodwind, and violin, strings, the whole string section. So this brings back amazing memories seeing this place again. We also came back here for Tiny Toons when Bruce Broughton first started. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I got to orchestrate for John Morgan, who was writing for Bruce at that time. And we came here to record one of the first Tiny Toons. I think it was the second one, Pasadena Jones, and there was a couple of them. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, the studio, what was your question? Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I chase storms, and I write music for movies, and I conduct a lot.
I think, Dara, one of the things that got us through COVID, a horrible time we were locked in, was Barb the Star, Beast of Del Mar. It's such a wonderful score. It became an instant cult film. Tell us about the experience of doing that for the first time.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on Zooms with everyone, staring at Kristen Wiig's ceiling because of the angle that her camera was at. Beautiful ceiling. It was one of those things where, a lot of people were just trying to figure out how to, get by day to day and figure out how to live in this new normal for that period. And I felt very fortunate to have something to put my mind on. But it was one of the first things that we recorded, during COVID, because that was also like a large issue. It's like, how do we record this? Like the dub tape's not moving, and we're still in this thing. So a lot of it was, seeing who was recording, who could record safely, all of that. We were already not strangers to striping, recording the strings, recording the brass, recording the woodwinds, etc. But in that instance, it was necessary also for health. So we recorded that whole thing basically, with the exception of like a couple of soloists in Budapest, and they would, they recorded the strings first, and there was a limit of how many strings we could do, and then the brass and all of that. But I mean, it was a very fun movie, and I think you can tell how much fun we had working on it as you watch it. It was a very silly movie, and you never really know what people's reactions are going to be, and we were thrilled with the response to that. But yeah, I mean, recording in COVID and working in COVID in general was a challenge. I did an AFM thing for a short during that time too, and it was a thing where everyone had to go and get tested. And we were able to record the strings together, one person per stand, spread apart, everyone wearing masks, and then, I only had so much money. So when it came to the brass and the woodwinds, the options were, pay money out of pocket, or to
Hold them out.
no, or to have every single person record separately at home. So that's what we did for the brass and the woodwinds for this illumination short I did. It was every single person had to record remotely. So we got in again my engineer, my poor engineer. We had to, he received and we would have a couple of horn players. It's like, okay, play this a couple of times, or play different parts. So we would have, I think we got in a good 20 tracks in, remote tracks of everyone, this is just the first flute line, this is just the second flute line, sort of a thing. And he had to make all of that feel like we recorded everyone in one room, and that was a challenge, but I mean, he did a commendable job. But yeah.
Now, Snuffy, for me, I think a lot of people, The Stand, the original miniseries is still one of the great Stephen King adaptations, and I think at that point, no one had really heard an acoustical approach to an epic like that. What was the challenge of The Stand for you?
When Stephen was the one who got me involved in that. There were other composers that usually did his films, and he heard something that I did that was a Western drama crime thing, and he loved it. And he called me up and he said, I want you to do this. And I kind of went, are you really Stephen King? And I didn't know anything about that genre. And he said, yeah, I want blue jeans music. That's what he said to me, blue jeans music. And I went, what the hell is that? That's like when the producer says, yeah, I want a bird and one cloud, no, two birds and one cloud and make the sky pink. That's your cue. That's kind of what you end up with. But obviously they didn't have enough money. Obviously there never is. So the whole ensemble was single figure, doing all the kind of rock orchestral stuff and acoustic and electric guitars. That's all it was. And then for the very end of the piece, we went in and did a few orchestra pieces. But Stephen didn't like that as much. He really liked just the acoustic guitar stuff and the slide guitar stuff. And it was fun. It was a hell of a project. I had 16 days to do, write and record 4.5 hours of music. So it was tight. But I have my own studios. It didn't cost anything for that. So that was great. But Stephen's a great guy. I called him at one point. I said, we can't finish the film. We don't have the money. And the next day, a $10,000 check arrived to me personally. And he paid for it out of his pocket. So God bless him. God bless him back there.
So I want to turn it over to you. Because we're live streaming, I need to repeat the question, for the audience who's watching right now. So before whoever is answering, I'll just repeat the question.
Snuffy, I read a quote that said that you referenced your friend James Horner in approaching West Wing, and then you just mentioned blue jeans music. What is your biggest influence in doing a style you are unfamiliar with?
To repeat, Snuffy, what is the biggest influence in doing the style that you're familiar with?
whatever I need it to be at the moment, you know? It really is. James was great, because I did an arrangement of a main title for James, who was a friend. And I went over to his house and he said, well, these are all the notes we're gonna use. And he had all these note heads on the page. No signature, no anything, just note heads. And he said, well, you can play it like this, or you can play it like this, or you can do it. And I left there feeling like a Martian, like I just landed somewhere. And but he was phenomenal. He really helped me see the complete creativeness that he had. I mean, it's phenomenal. If you really listen deeply to his scores, he's turning things inside and out and backwards. And so I think it was probably two people. It was probably Ry Cooder and James Horner. Both great.
Peter, you have a question?
Jay, I'm a big fan of Silver Bullet, and I love the score has a lot of heart, as well as some really great, horrific scenes. How'd you come aboard that?
Jay, how did you come aboard Silver Bullet?
It's interesting because Snuffy had a relationship with Stephen King, and I was an avid Stephen King reader of all of his books. And my editor friend from New York, Dan Lowenthal, was working, I'd done like 6 films with him, and he was the editor on the film. And they asked him, this happens quite a bit, editors or music editors are the ones who help a lot of us composers get into a project. And Dan suggested me, his director was Dan Attias, and so they asked me to submit a demo. And so I didn't see a clip of the film, I saw a script, and I read a script, and it was at the time when this film was being made, it was not really a horror film. It was more a coming-of-age film. If you haven't seen it, it's about a boy, a crippled boy, played by Corey Haim, in a wheelchair, who believed that the minister in town was a werewolf. And so he's out in the woods, playing around in the woods, and he sees this, what he thought was a werewolf, and somehow he had a skyrocket, so he shoots a skyrocket, because it's 4th of July, and he hits this werewolf in the eye, and the next time you see this character, it's the minister, and he has a big patch over his eye. But nobody believed him, and his uncle, Gary Busey, built him this amazing gas-powered wheelchair, and called the Silver Bullet, because you know how you get rid of a werewolf is with a silver bullet. Yeah. So, but I submitted a demo which was very non-horror like at all. It was playing the pathos of this poor boy who sees his friends playing ball and he can't walk, so he's watching them. And instead of being like, rah, rah, it was more of a pretty thing. And I thought, I'm probably not going to get this, but this is an opportunity to get involved with something pretty cool. This is, I've been doing all these independent films, etc. And this is Dino De Laurentiis and Paramount Pictures, and a much bigger budget than what I've ever worked with. So they accepted my theme, and they said, well, come on down and let's have a meeting. And they apologized profusely for not having enough money to have this score done properly. And it was like 4 times the amount I've ever received. So naturally I accepted the challenge, and it's one of my favorites. But a little aside is that Paramount, in its infinite wisdom, had just come off Friday the 13th, which was very, like this kind of movie. And so they recut a lot of the film to make it more grisly. So I had to redo most of the score or fix it to make it more snarly, etc. I think if they would have left it the way it was, it would have been much more widely accepted. But a quick end of the story is I never met Dino De Laurentiis until the screening of the film. And I was in this screening room with all the executives of Paramount, and Martha Schumacher, who was the producer, said, please sit next to Dino and he'll give you some notes. So I said, well, I've already finished the score, it's not the time to get notes. And so Dino says, heard the first couple of cues, he says, bells, I hate the bells. Well, bells are for weddings, not funerals and werewolves. Get me Francis Light on the phone right now, he's doing this to me. And I thought, oh God, I'm really get fired. And that was it. So I met with Martha the next day, and she said, oh, no, we want you to just take the bells out. And by the way, we have to recut the film anyway because there's not enough blood in it. So they recut the film and made it more snarly, and I had more scratchy music in it, and that's how we got into Silver Bullet.
I guess you never heard Herman scored his sisters with all the bells in there.
Remember, being a werewolf means never having to say you're sorry. Next question, please.
So, William, I want to know a little more about what you do with these scores, the readaptations, the rescoring,
Yeah.
and also, I sense that you are really big Bernard Herrmann fan. Really big.
I'll tell you in a moment.
I mean, the music in my head for Sinbad, it just goes on and on and on, but tell me.
William, tell us about your love for Bernard Herrmann.
Absolutely, and I have something fun to announce right now. I'm currently scoring this beautiful documentary about the working relationship with Alfred Hitchcock and Bernard Herrmann. And I'm having a blast because they asked me to compose like Herrmann. They're like, we kind of want it to be like 30s, 40s, 50s Herrmann. So I'm just doing the underscore. I'm just doing a little transition. So I'm scoring them like his old radio scores in a way. So I'm doing transitions and things like that, you know. And we've already recorded. I went and recorded with my wife Anna to Utah. We recorded with the BYU Philharmonic all of the big set pieces, all the big North by Northwest, Marnie, Psycho, everything. So we've already got that on tape. So I have to sit there and watch it while I'm scoring. So, but it turned out really, really well. The kids nailed it there at BYU. And my love of Herrmann goes back to when I was a kid. I mean, I grew up, I wanted to play French horn because of the crab music from Mysterious Island. You know? And Herrmann's music, I mean, I'd be scared laying in bed at night listening to Psycho or Vertigo or whatever. And I had all the albums back then, you know, and Gerhard did that wonderful recording of like Citizen Kane, and of course On Dangerous Ground with our French horns. Anyway, it's so fantastic. So Bernard Herrmann has just been my hero my whole life. I feel like I know him. I feel like I have the right to rob from him a little bit because I love him so much. I try not to, but I end up sounding like him all the time. But anyway, does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. I could go on and on about Bernard Herrmann.
Okay, me too.
Questions, anyone? Sir.
I got a question for John. For the 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, how did you balance the darker, gritty tone of the film with the comic book and humorous elements?
So the question is, how did you balance the drama with the more comedic elements in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Well, I had a secret weapon, which was ignorance. I knew absolutely nothing about it. I had to ask I got a call saying, can you do this thing for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? And I had to ask my son, what the hell is that? And he gave me a very rational explanation. He said, well, it's the four things that teenagers like. You know, it's teenage, mutant is like science fiction, you know, the teenage, you know, and so on. But so I had no idea whatsoever. And by the way, the film was a complete wreck. You know, I mean, the original score, you know, went totally south. And there was a kind of rescue committee. They fired the director, and we had to come in like a sort of, you know, a bunch of old teachers, you know, trying to rescue this project. You know, the editor, two editors actually, they had to bring two on. Myself and the producers, and we just kind of tried to rescue it. I did go to a studio called Cherokee, and the tape op said, oh, I like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they're cute but violent. I hate violence. I couldn't do any of the movies that my colleagues have done. I mean, I just hate violence. I had so much in my youth, you know, as a child. So I'm scared of it, you know. That's why I do comedy. So it's like, and my job, I felt, was to kind of soften it. And so I like this kind of Mickey Mouse timing in scores. You know, it's kind of put down, but I love it. You know, and so I found the big fight sequence in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know, I scored like a ballet, really, like a Tom and Jerry cartoon, so that it's all fun. And after it was all over, I got a hamper from the producer, Raymond Chow, saying, "Thank you very much for getting us a U certificate." There's no way that film, I saw it recently, they just re-released it. I was shocked by the violence. I mean, I just hate violence in films. That's why I haven't done many films in the last 20 years. And it's, so I felt my job was to make it, you know, funny so that kids wouldn't be scared. So that's it. The dealing with the dark side, you know, I've got so much dark side in my past that I would just ignore it, you know, make it fun. You know, they're going through a sewer, you know, let's put in some surfing music. It's my quest in life, is to try and be able to walk along that dark street without being too scared.
Dara, you talked a lot about you're an engineer, and I'm a big hi-fi nerd, so I'm curious about the balance between the music that you need to provide for whatever you're supporting, the narrative, the sound quality, and the balance between make it be the music still feel kind of live without not necessarily being like too sterile.
Derek, can you talk about the technical musical balance and action of your scores?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important, and it depends on the film, honestly, too. You know, before Ironheart and after Ironheart, I do a lot of kind of folksy acoustic comedies where, you know, the roughness is part of its charm. You know, you want to hear a finger slide every now and then and those sorts of things. But yeah, when it came to Ironheart specifically, you know, we had to do things like, you know, taking the noise floor out of the orchestra, anything that would kind of distract from everything else that was going on. Because when you have so many layers, and maybe I had too many layers, maybe that's my problem. But when you have so many layers, any sort of like extraneous noise that's not pertinent to the sound can be distracting, even if you don't realize it. So there were times where I'm like, something feels weird. It's like, oh, I didn't RX the orchestra yet. And I'm like, okay. And then you hear it differently. It's like everything just becomes a little clearer. So I mean, it really depends on the genre. It really depends on the film and kind of the character of the narrative and what it needs.
I always like asking this question whenever I'm lucky enough to do this for each of you lightning round. What is it like for you to have fans of your work, Jen? people who buy your albums, people who love your music.
Well, first of all, it's so amazing to have so much interest in film music, and maybe more so than a lot of other types of music. There's somebody in the audience here, I believe Lucas is here somewhere. Was he right here? There he is. A long time ago, Lucas started this paper, Film Music Monthly or Weekly. Yeah, Film Score Monthly. And when he was a student in high school. So I started reading this and became sort of a fan of him. And what he didn't know is we lived in the same place. And we did some interviews and stuff. And I realized how many people look at this, how many people are so interested in this technique and art of film and television music. And we've preserved it. There's people here who have record companies who preserve this, and people who write about it, including my wife. And it's just really fascinating. So you should give yourselves a hand for being such supporters of this kind of art. So, thank you.
John, let's have fans.
Oh, fans. Well, I'm just grateful, you know. I think we lead very isolated lives as writers, you know. I mean, in fact, it's almost, you're the first 4 composers I've really kind of met. Because you're all in competition with each other for a very small amount of work. You hate everyone who takes all that stuff. So there's a kind of almanac printed, that lists who did what in a year, and I saw Henry Mancini had done 20 films, and I thought, you bastard. Of course, he can't do that. I'm sure he had people to come along and help him. Well, I don't know how he did that, you know. I mean, in fact, I mean, if you didn't go to the cinema, and you know, you keep the boat afloat. So just thank you so much for what you do, and thank you for loving film like we do.
Well, first of all, I'm probably the biggest fan of film music. And when you have this love of it, you want to preserve it and present it to other people, and hopefully present it in the way you would love it to be presented. So I appreciate fans, and I'm the biggest one, so thank you.
Honestly, I'm pretty weirded out by it. Because to me, and you know, maybe I'll continue to feel this way my whole career, but I still feel so new to this. So I'm like, but why? I mean, they're looking up, talk to these people. What are you talking to me for? But I mean, yeah, it's very surreal and humbling. I remember for Straw, the Taraji Henson drama I did earlier this year, someone on Instagram did like a remix of one of the tracks I did, and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it was very cool, and I'm like, wow, this is like one of the, wow, thank you. That's so fun to like this mattered to you, I guess. But yeah, like the rest of them, I grew up being a fan, so it's weird to have people reference me. But always incredibly thankful.
Personally, it always made me work harder to make the music stand on its own without the film. Because, I just came from blues guitar player from Texas. What did I know about film scoring? I didn't know anything about it until I got approached one evening, and an agent said, would you be interested in film scoring? Ry Cooder's priced himself out of the business, so would you be interested in doing it? And so I said, I was going to be broke or playing in a $30 a night club, and that's what I was faced with. So once I got to do 30-something, I realized that the people who listened were really touched, not only by the show, but were really touched by the music. And I think that's probably the best thing to me when I get fan letters and things when people say, like, I got one just recently, we got married to the West Wing theme, That's kind of weird. But, maybe we'll get a Bartlett too, okay? But maybe we'll get a Sean Bartlett.
Anyway. Excited to that. I was at a wedding this summer, and the mother-son dance was to AQ from Bridgerton. So I texted Chris Bowers, and I'm like, I'm at this wedding right now, and they're dancing to your music. He's like, oh my God, that's so sweet. So yeah, it's really,
That's funny. One more little aside too. I recently received fan mail from this young boy in Florida. His favorite movie is King Kong by Max Steiner. And so he sent me this huge packet, how he listens to King Kong like every day. And he wants me to sign like pictures of Fay Ray and King Kong. He goes, he just loved our recording that we did back in 1996. So.
Everyone, I want to have a round of applause for Peter Edward again. I want to give a round of applause for our composer, Chattaway.
Guys, here in front of Jim.
Sorry, I'm not allowed to talk about my new recording.
Hey, Robin, can I grab a quick picture? Sure.